Hello guys, and welcome to Miami Misplays' channel. This is a channel where we cover card games that we play. Most of the time it's usually Digimon. We're in a format though right now where our format's been pushed back for a few months, and My Hero Academia has actually made its recent come out last week. So I thought I'd start making some videos about it and covering it. It's a game that not a lot of people know too much about, even though the series itself is pretty old, but it runs its own format, so it's a fresh new start for the game itself. And I think a good entrance for new players. I myself am a new player, but I've been playing relentlessly with me and my team. I've taught most of my team members and a lot of people from the store locals at Pro Play Games. Now, the game is definitely, in my opinion, something different and something to get used to. Now, my first couple videos are actually just going to be deck lists, so this is probably going to be more for people that are into the game or are interested in their favorite character and maybe what cards to play. So the way the game works, and I'm just going to go over a quick brief summary, and then I'll have an actual video, of tips and tutorials of the game and how to play. But just for this video purpose, we're going to be going over Yujiro Kirishima. This was the first character I picked because he is one of my favorite characters besides Bakugo, but I couldn't get a rival deck in the beginning, so this was the first I built, and I ended up really liking him. It turns out after I played more characters, I found out he is one of the higher tier characters in the game. Now, for reference purpose, the green card symbols, that's the amount of hand count you have pretty much your whole game, unless you add cards to your hand. And that's what you draw up to at the beginning of your turn. And this is your life points, your 29 life points. Different characters have different amounts. Other characters that I'll go over in another video will be Eraserhead, which is, if you notice, a 7 hand count, so it has much higher, but then only 19 HP. And the game condition to win is to knock your opponent's HP down to 0 with attacks, or things that will deal damage. Now, to get started with the video, we're going to go over Kirishima and his character card, specifically. So, he has 2 enhancements. Enhancements are things you can activate during the battle phase. Some only once per battle phase, some once per turn per battle phase, and some up to twice per turn per battle phase. And I'm sorry I used the word battle phase. It's technically called Enhanced Step. That's my bad. Just niches from other card games. Anyway, so here Kirishima has 2. Once per turn, you can build the top card of your deck face down. This is what gives you foundations, is what they're called, and they're used to either additional checks or to gain abilities. Of course, face down, it's really just there to tap. So if you need to, play a certain card, you can. And then the second ability is add 1 foundation from your stage to your hand. The stage is where you play your foundations. So essentially, you fill the card from the top of your deck to the back, considered the staging area, and then you can also add that card into your hand. And as an added bonus, when you do that, the attack that is currently being played, whether you or your opponents, can either gain 2 damage or lose 2 damage. So it's a very oppositional card that can be used on your turn or on your opponent's turn. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, Kirishima, his ability is hardening, if you watch the anime. So he's a pretty straightforward character, pretty straightforward ability. Now we'll get into the cards. In his deck, I'm only running 3 type of cards, because there are 5 type of cards if you include character cards that you can play. He's the character card. He also goes on the side and is played and not played, but already in your what's considered staging area immediately. So you don't have to play him or search from your hand. He's just your avatar, your character card. Now, the first card I'm going to go over, because I only play 2 of them in this deck, are action cards that I play in this deck. I play 2 Capture Evildoers. Now, Capture Evildoers is an action card. Action cards can be played like, if you know Yu-Gi-Oh!, a quick play spell, or something that can be used at any time, depending on the timing that is listed on the card. So, this one specifically has Enhance, remove 1 rival momentum, and then if you did, you can add the top card of your deck to your momentum to remove, and then you remove this card from the game. Now, because it has an enhance ability, I can play this card from my hand to trigger its enhance ability. It also has an ability called Form. Form is really an appropriate use, pretty much, I guess you can call a normal spell. Something that you wouldn't activate in the middle of an attack, something that you would activate when you're just generally playing a card. Like if you were to summon a monster, play a Digimon, or in this game, play a foundation. Form would be able to be accessible at that time. The form is discard 1 momentum to discard up to 3 cards from your card pool. You'll find that that's useful because as you build more cards, the next card you play becomes more difficult to play. Again, we're going to cover a lot of these within the tips I do apologize. I am trying to explain some of it at the same time as move forward, because this video will take a little long if I do both at the same time. But anyway, with this, what it allows me to do with Kirishima is after I've played about 2 attacks and I've gone in a little bit, I can then play this as my 3rd card, remove itself or discard itself plus 2 other cards, and clear my card pool to continue attacks. Now Kirishima only has a 5-card hand count, but he can lift cards back to his hand. And as you build face down cards from the top of your deck, you could also possibly be building attacks. Not only that, there are attacks that will build themselves face down into your foundation, maybe after being blocked or such. And that is where you'll be able to continuously keep attacking with Kirishima. And because he has such a base, such an easy gain ability to gain foundations and continue playing cards, it becomes very easy to maybe check 1 or 2 cards and continuously attack. This is what, in my opinion, gives him a very good offensive ability to complement his very high defensive abilities. And that's about it for the action cards. I only played 2 of these. Oh, and I should mention, in this game, with your character card, there are 3 symbols next to your character card. In his, he has Earth, Good, and Void. With these three symbols, you pick one of the 3 symbols, and all 50 plus cards in your deck must be equal to the same symbol. So in this deck specifically, if you notice, this one only shares 1, and that's the good symbol, the blue. So we're going to be going ahead, and this is going to be a good Kirishima deck. Now, moving forward, we're going to get into the foundations. This is where there's going to be a lot of them, and we're all probably moving a little bit faster. But of course, go ahead, feel free to try and pause the video, take a look at the cards, write them down, or take pictures, however you want to do. So the first set will be 4. It can't be fixed. Now this is a 0 cost. It's the cheapest one in the deck to play. This is what's also going to provide you protection from when your cards are going to be tapped. Its response is you can flip after you commit any number of cards due to a rival's effect. Build the card from the top of your deck face down. This is playable while committed. Very good card for when your opponent plays a stun ability, which then forces you to commit a card. You can choose to commit itself, trigger its effect to flip itself because it is playable while committed, and then build the top card of your deck. Again, providing you much more defense and keeping that foundation count. Following card after that, you'll see, is a Precious Lesson. Now again, this is another kind of protection card. This is a response flip. After one of your foundations is removed or destroyed, build the top card of your deck face down. So again, Kirishima also has cards that destroy foundations to replace themselves. So while you're destroying a foundation to replace itself, you can actually flip this card and gain an additional foundation. So essentially growing further into foundations. And again, foundations are how you're going to be able to continuously play more and more cards and also block more and more. Besides that effect, it is a 1-cost card to play. And I should go over real quickly, the blue number on the bottom right corner, that is how you pay when you play a card. So whenever you play a card, you mill the top card of your deck and you check the blue number. If it's equal to the cost that you played, like let's say the 1, the 6, then you continuously move forward with the effects or what happens next within gameplay. If you do not meet that requirement, you must tap foundations for each missing number. Now, let me rephrase that. You don't have to. You have the option to just fail the card, but understand failing a foundation or an attack will end your turn. Continuing from there, when you do check your cards, each check that you tap sideways is considered one towards the accounting number that you need to reach. And that's why building foundations in this deck is so great. You're building more foundations, you're building more cards to tap. And because they're face down, while yes, they don't have effects, they're very useful for tapping them sideways. And again, of course, paying a cost without using cards that have effects to pay cost for playing cards. When a card is committed or turned sideways or tapped, however you want to call it, they no longer have their effects unless specifically stated, played while committed. Like our previous card, it can't be fixed. Now, moving forward, again, so far you've seen 2 defensive foundations that just help me build further. The next you'll find is Preparing for Battle. Now, Preparing for Battle is Enhance, Commit, Discard, Draw 1 card, Discard 1 card, Draw 1 card. In my opinion, it's mostly used as a way to further attacks if I want to continue attacking more, and I want to discard a card to just gain more advantage, and hopefully gain another attack to continue. Or it has Breaker +1, which means I can bounce that card to my, I'm sorry, not bounce. I can play that card as a shield to block, which we'll go over shields again in tips and tutorials. And breaker +1 will make my opponent's next card cost 1 more after a block. Whether it's an attack or foundation that they play next, it will cost 1 more and adds more to the difficulty, making it harder for them to continuously attack or play. Now, what is good with Kirishima is that you could actually abuse this card by tapping it, discarding a card, adding to your hand. And then, because it's tapped and no longer going to be useful for a check or a block, you can add it to your hand with Kirishima's effect, minus their attack, and then you can block with it and give them a breaker +1 so that the following attack is much harder to play. Again, this is a very defensive style deck, and these are how, in my opinion, the deck will synergize very well. Now, his next card is, now we're getting into his cards. Manly, passionate guy. So, with this card, it's a response flip. After you block with a foundation, build it face up. So essentially, again, with this, if I were to block with this and breaker +1, I can now flip Manly Foundation face down and then move it back into my staging area, allowing me to A, if they attack again, commit it, and then again, B, with Irijima's Kirishima effect to bounce it back to my hand to give another -2 damage, and then use it as a block to then further breaker another card. So that is a solid effect with this, and so far we've seen multiple cards that just build foundations. Now we're going to go into resistance. Now resistance is also a breaker card, meaning if I block with this, it will increase the difficulty of the following card that the opponent plays. Not only that, I can commit this card so that the following attack my opponent plays also gets -2 damage. As you can tell, we're deteriorating the future attacks coming from your opponent to either deteriorate them from wanting to attack or in the fact that they do push the attack, forcing them to maybe commit more back cards. So that way on my turn, they don't have as many cards to commit during blocks. Which I will say, you will commit more attacks, more foundations during a block than you most likely will on your own turn. Now it has a response effect. After your rival plays a stun ability, cancel it. So again, now my opponent attempts to cancel once my opponent attempts to tap or turn one of my cards sideways or commit it, I can actually use this, flip it face down, and cancel it. So again, keeping my foundation standing and able to block more and attack more. Following after that, we've got Specialist of Sound. I feel like this is actually a really undermined card. I don't see it too much with the other players in my area. Maybe it is better online and I'm just not seeing it. Now, this card says response. After you check this card, reveal the top card of your deck. So you reveal the top card of your deck, your opponent sees what it is, you see what it is. The reason why that's good is you're checking what future cards you can possibly play with that next check, or with Kirishima, what you're going to be building face down. I mean, either way, you can check. You can see your face down foundations, just to let you know. They're not public knowledge, but they are personal knowledge to yourself. So you can check the cards you build face down. But it's nice to know ahead of time in case maybe you just didn't want to build that, or you already have an idea of what you want to bounce in your hand and you just don't want to build it. It's secondary response, and I like this because it's a response, not an enhance. In enhance, you have to wait until the enhanced step to play them, and your opponent will generally play their enhance first, and then you have to play yours. So, being a response, it allows you to respond before we enter the enhanced step, which says commit after an attack is played. It gains -3 speed, or it gets -3 speed, making it easier for you to block. So again, it's another card that makes it super easy for you to block, lets you see your next card whenever you check it, so that way if you want to continue attacking, you know how much you're going to tap and plan ahead. So now we've got Hardened. Kirishima's Hardened Foundation. So as a response, after you block with this card, your rival's next attack gets -2 damage. So again, we're blocking, making it much more difficult for your opponent to continue attacking, or just, making them not want to attack possibly. Besides that, its enhances, you can commit this, your attack gets +2 damage. So it can boost any attack by +2, but specifically Kirishima attacks that state the word, well, it didn't say Kirishima attacks, I should say, so, but they all say it. If you have Hardened in its name, it gets +3 damage instead, which is also a great boost. Kirishima doesn't have too many attacks that do large numbers of damage, like some other cards, like maybe Todoroki, or who's another one? A Denki or Uraraka, or anybody maybe with powerful abilities. So since Kirishima is usually locked down, usually hitting around 7 damage, an extra +3 really does make it nice and hit a lot harder and give it that offensive advantage. Moving forward from here, we have Coordinated Effort. Now this is his rare foundation, and it does have Unique. Unique means you can only have one on the field in your staging area. You can still block with it while having one in the staging area, and if for whatever reason you were ever to build one to the back, you would actually have the choice to destroy one of the coordinated efforts, which means if one is committed, you can destroy the committed one and keep the one that you built in the back that is standing. Now, its response is commit after your blocked attack resolves, build it face down. So now this means if my opponent did decide to block, I can build that attack face down. Now this does 2 things for me. One, it clears the card pool area, and now my next attack is not going to cost me 1 more than the previous one, and I'll only have to pay the base amount or +1 or +2 depending on what attack was moved backwards. The second thing this does is put an attack into my foundation, which at this point Kirishima can now grab that card, add it to my hand, and I can continue my attack. This is how Kirishima keeps his offensive and keeps going. Now he has a Deadlock in hands. Now Deadlock is if your opponent has 11 or more foundations, you can trigger Deadlock. Those are the only time you can trigger anything with quoted Deadlocks in them. Now Deadlock in hand says unflip 1 foundation. As you know, we're building 1,000,000 foundations face down. To be able to flip a foundation face up means is to gain an ability, and because you get to look at them, you'll pick which card you would like to have face up and gain new enhancements that could possibly help you. So that's why it's a Deadlock. It's a very powerful card. You'll also notice this is a check 6. I don't know if you've been noticing, all of them are check 5s, some check 4s. So check 6 is very powerful because now if I play a 5-cost card as my second attack and I need 6, if I flip this, it's covered. I don't have to tap any foundations. Moving forward, we'll go into the attacks now. So I'll start off with the 2 attacks that I play that are not Kirishima. They are All Might's cards. Now, a lot of people are playing a very punch and All Might version of this, usually going not mountain, but earth, earth styles, and I do like them. I just fell in love with the good because I love a lot of the Momo and the Airjack being able to commit and respond ahead of time, as well as being able to continuously build things when things are destroyed or removed. Now, this first enhance is if this attack deals damage, build the next foundation you play face up. That being said, when you go to play a foundation after this attack, it will automatically be built face up if this was dealt damage. If this attack dealt damage. You'll also notice this, if a punch attack has dealt damage this turn, draw 1 card. Now, most of Kirishima's attacks are punches. I believe there's only one that is not. It's a kick, but it's too good to not play the kick, so we're playing that as well. I don't play this card so much for its secondary effect for the punch, but for the first effect of being able to build my next foundation face up, give me an additional foundation, letting me play another attack after that foundation, so on and so forth. Now, you'll notice here, these are the speeds and the attack damage. Speed is combined with the numbers based on the shield that the card that blocked is used. You add those together, and then when you check to play your block, you have to beat that number. Now, this is a speed of 3. Let's just say for argument's sake, someone were to block with the shield and it's a speed of 2. That means they need to flip the top card of their deck and hit a 5. Now, if they don't flip a 5 and it ends up being a 3, an attack like this, then they'll have to tap 2 cards. And you can see a lot of in the game, you're going to be able to increase speeds, and it gets a lot more difficult to continuously keep blocking, which is why, again, I think Kirishima is great because of the immense amount of foundations you can build, you can most likely continuously keep blocking without exasperating yourself. And because you can add cards to hand, you don't lose the hand count and can continuously keep blocking as well. Then you can also decide what cards you're adding to hand with Kirishima to block attacks, because if you noticed, there are 3 directional attacks, up, middle, and down, and of course shields, up, middle, and down. That being said, when you are blocking or attacking, you must make sure that you block with a card that is adjacent to that direction. Now, the next card we're going to talk about after that is Hardened Frenzy. So this is the kick I was talking about. Now, this card has 2 enhancements. The first one being, if this attack is completely blocked, build it face down after it resolves. So as I said previously, building this card face down Very powerful because now if it's blocked, I can pick it back up and attack again. Following after that is the enhance. If you have built a card this turn, this attack gets +1 speed, +1 damage. Now Kirishima's very first effect says once per turn, build the top card of your deck face down. Once you've triggered that, these cards are live and can be active for the rest of the turn of gaining +1/+1. So now instead of being a 4/4, it is now a 5/5. Again, pretty powerful, pretty stable card. And by bouncing cards in your hand, you can make it into a 5/7. As I said before, generally speaking, your attacks are going to be hitting for 7. Now we'll get into the next attack, Hardened Jab. So Hardened Jab says you may add one foundation, one face down foundation to your hand, and then build the top card of your deck face down. This again allows you to pick up foundations, maybe tapped foundations to rebuild for a standing foundation instead, or readied, I should be saying, I'm sorry. Still getting all the terminology down for this game. It also allows you to pick the next thing if you need a block or an attack. Pretty straightforward. It's a 3/5, hitting for middle damage instead of the other two that have been hitting for up. And that's about it for the Hardened Jab. His next two attacks are his main attacks, and the next one specifically is my favorite, even though it's not what's considered his ultimate. This is Hardened Chop. Now I love this card. This card has Breaker +1, a shield for mid, which means it can block top, bottom, or mid attacks. Then it states as an enhance ability, destroy one face down foundation to build the top face down. Again, we play the Momo card. I don't remember its name. I think it's Preparation, or no, A Precious Lesson, that says if you destroy a foundation, you can flip it to build one. So now with his effect, you can destroy a foundation, maybe something tapped, build one face down, flip the Momo, and build another one. So essentially, you've gotten rid of something that was committed and gained 2 more ready foundations. And then his secondary effect, which is my favorite part of the card, if this attack is blocked, your rival discards 1 card. Discarding a card is very powerful. It stops your opponent from being able to continuously block. Maybe remove a blocker, a breaker card from their hand, or make a choice that they don't want to make. Or they held an attack for the following turn. As you can see, it forces plays out of your opponent. This is a great card, especially when you plan on doing multiple attacks and you want to swing with maybe your ultimate after and you're trying to dwindle down their hand. And his last attack and his ultimate, and the last 3 cards of the deck, because I only have 3 of them, you would want to play 4, is Hardened Pummel. Now, Hardened Pummel, first of all, it's a 1-cost shield, and it's a mid, very powerful already. Besides that being said, it's a 5/5 by itself. Now, you can discard 1 momentum to build 1 card from your hand face down. This attack gets +5 damage. So it costs you a card in your hand to be able to trigger that effect, but you gain a foundation on there, and then again, you give it +5 damage. And to reiterate, and to beat a dead horse, his effect, add it back to hand. If you really didn't want that card, increase this power by 2, so it can become a 12 damage. And its last enhance is, your rival cannot play action cards during this attack. Now, the only 2 cards right now I can imagine is Evil Gaze, or Evil Glare, from the Shigaraki deck, or the Eraserhead deck, which I'll be covering actually in the next video, Erase. Now again, it's not, in my opinion, I haven't found it too pivotal yet, but it is a powerful card, and because it says it can't be played, it also cannot be blocked, or be blocked with an action card. So this does stop your opponent from blocking with an action card, which some Eraserhead decks do rely on using that card as a block at a certain point, since I believe Erase does have a breaker +1, and they usually tend to discard a card to add that card back to their hand. So it's a very good card against that specifically. Other than that, this is his big swinging card. This is the card you usually want to save for last, or try to play maybe after Hardened Chop and they block to discard a card and again dwindle them down. So that's it for the Kirishima deck. As you can tell, it's a very defensive deck, builds a lot of foundation. You can control your foundation too by adding to your hand. So if you don't want to play a full-on build foundation and continuously give your opponent possibly deadlock effects, then you can just keep yourself at 10 constantly by just keeping the bounce and calculating your foundation count so you don't overpass that. I really fell in love with this deck. It's still probably one of my favorite decks. I did play Eraserhead, which is another top tier card. Another top tier character, and I fell in love with that one. pretty much a polar opposite of this one. While it does, you know, you can still get your builds in generally, it combos off a lot of using the erase, nullifying effects from your character, and so forth. I'll cover that in the next video. Like and subscribe. Please let me know if you want to see any other decks. If you have any specific characters you'd like to see, let me know. I'm trying to build at least one of every character, and if you have different attributes you'd like to see, I'll definitely try and build them and test them out to the best of my abilities. This game just came out. I play at Miami Pro Plays, and they're going to be having Monday night My Heroes, or My Hero Mondays. So see me then. I'll be posting more content. You should be seeing other deck lists for My Hero, as well as that tips and tutorial later this week. Thank you guys. Again, this is Zach, the Pervy Sage from Miami Misplays. You guys have a great day.